Good evening, and welcome back to Placid Plastic Duck Simulator. Today we have an absolute banger of an episode. We're going to be enjoying the campaign of Dungeons and Ducklings. This is the mountain campaign, as you can see, and we'll get our party members soon, of course. And you know what? I'm going to try to keep track of who is who and what, so that we can have a consistent, good storyline. So let me grab my book real quick. It's faster for me to scribble it down than it is to try to type it up on my phone. But we're going to start off here. We have, of course, Charles E. Classic. Charles E. Classic. So they're all ducks, right? They're all ducks. Charles is a human duck? It's a normal duck. The human duck. Let's see. With classic fighter, you know, like the most vanilla you could be, just a regular fighter. So sword, shield, medium armor, that sort of thing. So keep in mind, I have never played more than 2 sessions of actual D&D, so take this lightly, please. Don't hate me. So Charles, the human fighter, his backstory, he grew up in a mountain town, actually. Similar to this, okay, let me look around, please. Similar to this sort of thing. It's got a beautiful view. His wasn't nearly as high up, but he knows the basics about what you should be doing, shouldn't be doing, the way to navigate an area. So like when you see rocks a certain way, or follow the trails to find where the water falls, or something like that. He's good at navigation, pathfinding. That's the word I wanted, pathfinding. So Pathfinder. And here we have our second party member. Oh, oops, I forgot how to play. Daisy. Daisy is a wood elf. Wait. I'm gonna say there's wood elves. Like Skyrim. Wood elf. Is druid a class or a race? I don't know. I've got a whole handbook too. Daisy is a nature mage. I don't think that's a thing, but we're gonna say it's a thing because it's homebrew, the magic word. You know, Daisy knows her way around the forest, the foothills of mountain areas, so she's still got strengths, you know. She grew up in the forest, who'd have guessed, and her quest, we'll get back to Charles's quest shortly. Her quest, her backstory, what she's looking to do is she's looking to become more bonded with nature. After seeing some horrific things during her youth, she started to wonder why they stayed in the forest as these elves. She thought maybe it'd be better to industrialize, but with a better mindset towards actually maintaining and keeping the forest renewed. So it's not just like cut down all the trees, now you're out of trees. Like set up tree farming areas, set up a mine for your metal and stuff, but make sure the practices don't destroy, you know, the surrounding area. And so she thought maybe she could go out and find some maybe magical items or some kind of information on her quest to industrialize the wood elves in a nature-loving way. Or to be convinced that it doesn't need to happen. She's trying to find the answers right now. Before we get into Starby over there, we're gonna finish... Oops. Yep. Thank you, Daisy. No, Charles, come back. Charles' backstory. So, you know, he grew up in the mountain village, right? And with his fighting abilities, he grew up wanting to be a guard more than anything. He wanted to just defend his little town, live peacefully there. It's still there. Don't worry, it didn't get destroyed. It's not a tragic backstory. However, he does have the makings of a hero. Dead parents. He, in the last attack, most of the village was successfully defended, but his parents weren't so fortunate. So he wants to reevaluate the worth of himself. You know, he felt like he was lacking. He wasn't able to truly defend the things he cared about the most. And so he's going on a quest to find himself and to strengthen not only his body but his resolve and work towards avoiding any further evils that could happen to others. That's Daisy. All right, and we're at Starby's. The bloom is really high. Give me a second. There's no options for that, I guess. It's got a knife. I know that character then. And this is going to be our party. We're going to have a party of 4. So, Starsky here is truly named Starsky. Okay, so Starsky here. Starsky is the healer and a cleric. Starsky is a giant with an uncanny aptitude for the divine. What did I just say? Giant? I'm gonna say giant. Focused more on the strengths of their heart and how they dedicate themselves to their deity. That's a warlock? Their heavenly deity? They've been sent out on a pilgrimage. Not only have the other clerics of their temple been skeptical of Starsky's devotion. Starsky has been ostracized for being, not fitting in. They're going to prove that they have what it takes to truly be an agent of their deity just as well, if not more so, than their peers. Starsky's really just looking to accomplish a great deed. That was kind of the vague tasks they gave them. Go do a great deed in the name of the sun god Ra or Horus or something. I don't know. I'm gonna say Horus because I think that's accurate. Also, it's also I don't know. It works, right? That's not important actually, but never mind. So, yeah, Starsky's gone out to chuckle. So Starsky's just out to find their next goal. Now it brings us to our thief. Our thief here is actually cousin of Charles. Starsky is a... No, sorry, not Starsky. Stabby. Stabby's not their name. I have to think of it first. She. Stabby's a she. Little did Charles know, a neighboring mountain village is where his cousin was. His parents, they didn't talk too much about their brothers or sisters or anything like that, so he didn't really know a lot about them. So he knew he may have had some cousins here or there. He had no brothers or sisters, just his parents, himself, and the village people around him. And while he had some friends, he was kind of in a weird in-between stage of the village's adults and the youths. He was like an off-center. The generations are actually pretty lined up. He was not. He was kind of weird. But that wasn't a problem. Nobody cared. It just made him feel a little less communal with everybody else. So he felt most comfortable with his parents. But this thief here, Edgers kind of snuck out of their village, and while they were wandering around, it was a nighttime. They have a curfew in her village, so as she was wandering around, she saw like some light from over a ridge, and it was fire. It was the burning of Charles' village, and while it was successfully defended, they did take damage. She noted what had gone on. You know, there was a courier running towards her village, so she just kind of stayed out of sight because she wanted to see what was happening. So the other villages were informed of the attack so they could be prepared and whatnot. She just kind of saw it happen, and she thought, well, how interesting. She was already camping, you know, already had a bunch of stuff on her, so it's not like she felt like she needed to go back for any reason. They'll figure it out. They'll handle it. She's sneaky. She likes to just do whatever she feels like. So she kind of watched for a while, a few days actually, just to see what was happening. Just curious, you know. And she noticed one of them was packing up and leaving. She was like, ooh, what's that about? Similar age, so she was like, huh, I think I'll follow that guy. And that's what she did. She followed that guy. That guy was Charles. And neither of them know they're cousins. There's no weird romantic subplot here. It's just how it was going. Coincidence, you know? Edger's last name is also Classic, but she doesn't really bother with that. Doesn't matter to her. She doesn't care. Names are names. So she is following Charles, and she's really just going on an adventure. She has no ties to anything. She just wants to go, you know, experience. And so she follows Charles, eavesdrops on him while he's going through the town at the foot of the mountain, where they a lot of the ores from the mining operations from the mountain villages kind of go. So he's familiar with the path, you know, no getting lost there. He goes, she finds out why he's leaving, you know. He just kind of talks to one of the bartenders while in a tavern or something, and he just doesn't have anyone else to talk to, so she kind of feels bad for him. So she kind of bumps into him. Whoa, what's going on? Does the whole thing there. They get acquainted. Edger's like, you know what? Hey, let me help you. Let's go on an adventure together. I got nothing to do. He's like, okay. Sure, I guess. It'd be better to have someone to talk to. That sounds fun. And so that's how they partied up. And while they're in this same tavern, Daisy, who is hooded, you know, doesn't really want to show off she's an elf because people are weird in these parts, you know. So she's being careful. Has a little headband on too that goes right over her ear tips, which is probably a little more suspicious, but nobody cares enough to really push it. So even though she's got the hood and the headband on. She's a little more blunt, maybe less extrovertive, less comfortable, or no, less tactile with interrupting people's conversations and whatnot. So she just kind of bumps in and is like, hey, you guys going on an adventure? You think it'll be cool? Like, you think I could learn something neat from that? And they're like, who are you? She explains her conundrum. She's like, yeah, I've been wandering around and I have no idea what I'm looking for, but I thought I'd find something. Everything here is not what I was expecting. A bunch of flattened out areas, no trees, barely any farming in the area. It all looks very sad. And she's like, ugh, I was hoping to get some information. This is so unfulfilling. And they're like, I don't know, maybe we'll find something. We're just kind of going, right? Maybe we'll find some information. And so they party up. Charles, Edgers, and Daisy. And they don't share like a room or anything. They all just get their own rooms and meet up again in the morning. And find themselves having breakfast, eating, having a good time. They go outside, and there's a big statue in the center of this town. Statue of the founder. Though the founder was a bit of a, what's the word? Bit of an interesting person. I can't remember the word for it, but they like to have strange fashion choices. They're, I can't remember what it's called. Extravagant's not the word, but it feels like the word extravagant. Anyway. It'll come to me after the fact. I'll probably put it up in the text. You'll see it. It's right there. So yes, the founder really likes this idea of the general portrayal of the sun god. And so when they all leave their rooms in the inn that they went for, and they just see this giant, roughly the same size as this statue. It's like raised up maybe about 8 to 10 feet tall, so this is a big guy, right? They find Starsky just staring at it, but he's not convinced it's who he thinks it is. He's just glaring, and they're like, this is bad news, I think. I don't think I want to talk to this guy. And so they just try to go around him, but it's early. No, people would be up. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, they just try to go around him. But since there are like 3 people grouped up, kind of mismatched, you got a guy wearing cloth and some light leather armor, since there's not much else available inside their mountain area. They sell most of their ores, so it's not like they're all kitted out. So, and then this suspicious hooded person walking around with a big stick. Like, there's not that many big stick people. There's like regular stick people for walking around, but there's not a lot of big stick people. And a person who is very good at being unnoticed. But Starsky noticed. They turn to them and it's like, hey, who is this? They're like, I don't know. We're not from here. So it's like, huh. These words are too small. They're too big, and they don't want to crouch down to read them. And they're like, oh, they kind of shuffle over a little bit. Charles is like, that's the founder, I guess. Like, huh. What he found? What do you find? And Edge is like, no, they founded this town This is their town. They founded it. Like, huh. So they're like, all right, yeah, this guy's weird. See ya. And he's like, hey. So they all stop. They're like, what? Where's the temple? Like, I don't know. We're not from here. They repeat. He's like, huh. Can I follow you guys? No. So, after some back and forth for a minute, they kind of get the general idea. Starsky opens up a little more. Yeah, Starsky opens up a little more. He's just kind of... He's a little weird, but it doesn't actually seem all that bad news bears, So he's, They figure out what he's doing, and they're like, oh... Just sounded like they were trying to get rid of you. And he's like, yeah, probably. But I'll show them. And I'll show them by being better than them. And so that's what he's doing. And, he's like, you guys going on an adventure. You guys have, any kind of medical stuff? They're like, what? I mean, we got some bandages. I know healing magic. So they go, they accept, like, oh yeah, good idea. We should all do this together. And the party was built. The party between Charles, Daisy, Starsky, and Edgers. Not this lumberjack. Starsky doesn't have a name. Here we go. So our party now has a name. So they venture out somewhere, a direction that none of them came from. So they're like, well, I came from this way. We came from the mountains. And Charles is like, we came from the mountains? Like, oh yeah, I'm from that other village. Oh. Huh. Cool. So they figured that out. And so they go east. And they travel for a while. They make their way to another town. A town that just isn't right. This town is a bigger one than the one they were in previously, but also closer to the mountains than the other one was previously. So the other one was a foothill town, and the two Classic and Edgers came from mountain villages. They're in a town that's more of a bigger mountain town kind of a thing. And they wander around. They find themselves near an adventurers guild, and they're like, do we have to be licensed for this? Are we allowed to just wander around and do things? Like, I don't know. So they go inside, they talk to a receptionist. They explain, like, oh, you know what, there's no like overarching adventurers thing in this kingdom, but you definitely get benefits from being an adventurer. Like, you get, not only do you get these areas, and we have cheaper room and board for just room, no boards, for adventurers. It's, maybe 20% cheaper. So it's not a huge savings, but it's useful. So you get those. There's they have food facilities nearby, but none of it really compares to what you can get at an inn or a tavern, where they have more refined guests, people who care more about what they're eating and drinking, for that matter, and where they're sleeping. So if you want to bunk in a hostel kind of a place, not a hostile place, but a hostel, that works, but you don't have to. It's a thing available. You can get pickup quests here. Like, there's a town request board that you can just go to, but those are unregulated, and they're probably good if you've never done anything before, but they're not going to give you any more than what's asked for, and there's no guaranteed costs or prices, any of that stuff. the guild costs, tell you the payout, all the useful things. So they're like, all right, this is a good idea. Let's be adventurous. Like, cool. Here you go. You start out. Here's here's a little piece of wood with our emblem carved into it. Just tells you you're an adventurer. That's really all you need. It might have some magical boon. Maybe not. I haven't decided yet. And so they're cool. Let's pick up a thing. They pick up a thing. The thing says, any and all adventurers, please, I need your help. Come to me up past the mountain pass, just beyond the city's outskirts. I am in dire need of help. Anyone who can assist, please. And it had a pretty low payout. So they're like, well, we don't know what this is. Sounds kind of vague. It's just asking for help. Maybe it's just like some basic manual labor. I mean, the pay is low. Is probably why no one bothered to take it. We're comfortable in the mountains, so why not? And thus, Daisy, Starsky, Edgers, and Charles made their way towards this small cabin out past the out near the pass outside of the town, where they meet a burly old fella. Me. An older gentleman, but in very good health. Couldn't have looked past 50. Older gentleman. With quotes. But he's taking care of himself. They knock on the door. It's about dusk. So it's not common for people to come out that far when it's getting dark. So it kind of doesn't expect it yet. And he's like, oh, are you the adventurers that have picked up my thing? It's like, you know we picked up the thing? It's like, I guessed, because nobody else comes out here. And it's like, oh. Yeah, that's us. It's like, wonderful. He opens the door, gestures them in, and he starts to explain to them. Something's wrong in these mountains. Something I've not experienced before, and I've lived here my whole life. The wind stops blowing at the same time every night. The birds stop singing an hour after the sun comes up. It's weird, and I don't like it. And they're like, wow, oh right, what does that even mean? Like, you time the birds? How do you know about the wind? Are you like outside the whole time? So they ask him some questions. And I was like, the wind's loud. I can hear it. It just stops. It doesn't die down. It just stops. It's weird. It shouldn't do that. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. Totally. And a bird question is like, I've got nothing else to do, so I watch the birds in the morning while I drink my hot dirt water. Can't afford beans. Like, uh-oh. Okay. What do they do when they stop, you know? They just stop. They freeze. It's like they just completely stop. Like they stop being there, but they're still there. I see them. Sometimes their mouths are still open. It's like, oh, I see. I guess we'll look around? I already looked around. There's nothing here. I think it's coming up near a cave. About 5 miles up the mountain. I've walked this whole area, searching for what it could be. And it's a 5-mile radius from that cave. I'm too old to adventure. I'm nearing up on 80 years old. And they're like, whoa, what? You say 80? Like, yes, why? It's like, you look really young for 80. Like, oh, thank you. I'm flattered. And they're like, wow, this dude looks 50. It's amazing. Starsky and Daisy are kind of like 80s. 80? Is that crazy? Starsky, I have no idea what the giant's lifespans are, but Daisy's like, that ain't nothing. That ain't close to nothing. Anyway, so they venture forth into the wild unknown. What will they find, I wonder? What will you find in the next exciting episode of Plastic Duck Simulator? Thank you so much for watching this. Keep an eye out for the next episode. It will be coming out shortly.